Grand Rising, great dawn in Cleveland, Ohio. Vince Robinson here on Open Door with my guest, Angela Woodall. She is a certified licensed occupational therapist. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
Okay. I encountered Angela as she was performing therapy on someone that is kind of dear to me, and she's been through a few things, and hopefully she's on the road to recovery after having a stroke. So I thought it might be important to just have a conversation about therapy. We are living in a world where health is being challenged in a lot of different ways, and there are people who help folks to recover from traumatic events that happen in their lives. So we're going to take a dive into what occupational therapy is and exactly what you do. But before this, we just like to get an idea of who Angela Woodall is. This is kind of a retrospective show. I give people an opportunity to tell their stories. It's completely unrehearsed, so hopefully it doesn't catch you too far off guard. But I like to give folks an opportunity to represent their hood, and I assume most times that folks are from Cleveland. Sometimes they're not. But are you a native Clevelander?
I am born and raised
Okay.
in Cleveland, Ohio.
And you grew up where?
I grew up in the Mount Pleasant area.
Okay, Mount Pleasant, huh? All right, so Audubon and other schools like that?
Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton, John F. Kennedy.
Okay.
It's Lee Harvard area.
Okay. Oh, you went to JFK?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm a former Kent State University student, and while I was there, I encountered people from different high schools. I kind of have some fond memories of being in college and just looking at everybody's yearbooks. You know, so I looked at JFK, John Hay, John Adams, Glenville, Collinwood, and met quite a few folks from Cleveland area high school. So how was it growing up in Cleveland for you, your childhood? Was it a good one?
It really was a good childhood. I grew up on the street. It was 139. We lived on several streets, but that street in particular, I was about maybe 4 years old when we moved over there, and we were there until I was about maybe, I don't know, 19.
Mm-hmm.
But it was wonderful because there were lots of children on the street. I come from a family of 8, 6 kids, and of course my mother and my father. And a lot of the people that lived on the street, they had lots of children too. So it was a lot of fun growing up with a whole lot of kids. We had a lot of pets, a lot of different animals. We had, even though we lived in the city, we had, dogs, cats, we had birds, we had ducks in the backyard, so it was really a lot of fun.
Okay. So after you had your experience at JFK, you ended up going to Tri-C?
Yes, I did go to community college. I didn't start out looking towards occupational therapy. I actually started out with nursing. The nursing program is what I was interested in. But then I just kind of had a change of heart right before getting into the nursing program. And it just so happened that I said a prayer, and I was very specific as to what I was looking for in terms of work. And that prayer was answered, by a friend. A friend came to me and said, hey, you would be great in occupational therapy. And at that time, I didn't know what that was. I was like, well, what is that? And he was just telling me, well, you work with the hands, you teach people how to do their bathing and their dressing and their activities of daily living. And I said, well, let me check into it. And so I did. And then I ended up contacting one of the directors at Cuyahoga Community College. At the time, I didn't know he was the director, but I just called and asked to speak to someone in the occupational therapy department. And we struck up a conversation, and he was like, well, you can get in the program right now. And I said, well, I just changed jobs, and I would have to switch back my hours. And I said I wanted to make sure I had all my prerequisites finished before getting in. And he said, well, I'll hold a spot for you. And so that's how I got started.
Okay. So what was it about nursing that appealed to you?
Well, at the time I was working at what was known at that time as Brentwood Hospital, but it is now Cleveland Clinic. But anyway, I was a medical secretary there. I worked in the medical intensive care unit, and I would also cover other shifts, other floors. I would also work in the surgical intensive care unit, pediatrics, med surg as a secretary, as a divisional secretary. And I started out in the medical intensive care unit, and I noticed that the nurses only had like maybe 2 or 3 patients, so they were able to give a whole lot of their time to each patient. But once I went to the medical surgical floors, I noticed that the nurses, they didn't have that kind of time with the patients. And then that's when I started to think about, well, maybe I should be doing something else, because I didn't know if I would be guaranteed to get a position in the intensive care units as a nurse. And I said, I want to spend more time, more hands-on time with my patients. And so that's when I started looking for something else, and then that's when the prayer was answered about occupational therapy, and I'm so happy that I made that decision.
Okay. So you've given us a little insight about what occupational therapy is, but give us a bit more. What is the process? What is occupational therapy comprised of?
Okay, so occupational therapy, we're part of a rehabilitation team, and it consists of speech therapy and physical therapy. So it's comprehensive. But occupational therapy specifically, we work on building up people's upper body strength in their arms and their hands, their core. We also work on standing balance, because our objective is to get people to their highest level of functioning. So whatever it is they have to do to get through their normal daily routine, you know, starting with bathing, dressing, toileting, cooking, cleaning. You know, we work on those types of things with our patients. But in a hospital setting, we also work like pediatrics, neonatal. We have a psych component where we work with patients that have psychological issues, people that have neuromuscular issues, and that would include someone that has maybe had a cerebral vascular accident or a stroke, you know, things like that, cardiac issues. I mean, we see people, you know, across the board, no matter what the diagnosis is. If they have muscle weakness, if they're poorly deconditioned, if they have poor balance issues. And we even work in the school systems with kids. Some kids that have autism, you know, we may work with those children as well, hearing impaired children. So occupational therapy, you know, we touch patients all across the board, no matter what their deficits are. There's a way that we could get in there and provide services for them.
Okay. I'm kind of interested or curious about the process. For instance, the patient that I'm aware of suffered from a stroke. So obviously their mobility is limited, the speech is limited. What do you do to get them from A to B to C?
So first of all, we take a look at, you know, what their deficits, what their weaknesses are. And so no 2 strokes are alike, even though it could have occurred on the same side of the brain, and they could have some similar weaknesses on the opposite side of the body. But we look at what the expectation is from the family and also from the patient. We try to get them to their highest level of functioning. But with a stroke, there's basically some brain damage. And so we just try to focus in on some of the most important things that they're going to need to probably be able to do. We want to make sure they have good trunk control, meaning that their core strength is strong and they can sit up on the side of the bed or just sit up unsupported without falling over, because the goal is to try to get them to again, gain their core strength, to maybe be able to do some upper body dressing, some upper body bathing if they can do it. It just depends on how severe the stroke, how bad the stroke was. Mm-hmm. So it just depends. And then we get the family definitely involved, because we need to find out what the family's expectations are. Because sometimes family members can only do so much. You know, they may want their loved one to be able to feed themselves. They may want their loved one to be able to dress themselves. Or they may say, well, I can do the dressing for my mother, you know. But our goal, again, is to still get them to the highest level of functioning. And so we have, as therapists, we have very specific targeted goals for them, but we also, again, include whatever the family wants to see done, as well as the patient, if they're allowed to tell us what they want to do. We want to include them in the process.
Okay. So let's say, and commonly with stroke patients, they lose the mobility on one side of their body. So one side is functioning and the other side is not. How do you get that part that's not functioning to function?
So what we do is a lot of neuromuscular re-education. And we may do something called PNF, that's called peripheral neural facilitation. And oftentimes that's like diagonal movements. So let's say the stroke occurred on the left side of the brain, so that would mean that the right side of the body would be affected. So we want to try to integrate both the right and the left side of the brain. And one way of doing that would be PNF, peripheral neural facilitation, where we may have the patient, I may be on the right side, I may have the patient reaching down with the left hand, looking with their eyes for an object, and then just bringing it back. You know, because they have to look to the right and then go to the left. But again, they're looking with their eyes while they're doing it. And so that's kind of helping re-educating both sides of the brain, both the right and the left side.
So there's a repetitious movement that you engage in fully with the patient, and then they work with you to try to get done what you request them to do.
Yes.
Okay. And you obviously experienced some breakthroughs. What's it like for you to see a patient go from one spot to another spot and receive the progress that they're making?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, that really is the best part of the job, because it's not the job, but the calling, because I do consider it a calling. It's just amazing to see. I'm just the facilitator. My patients really have taught me a whole lot more, just to see what the body is able to do, to see someone that has, you know, no function, where the arm is completely flaccid, or the one side of their body is completely flaccid. And then all of a sudden they start to slowly gain strength. And then they go from, you know, just being completely incapacitated to now being able to put their clothes on, now being able to stand up, now being able to brush their teeth, put their, you know, those types of things, now being able to walk. Those kind of things is so heartwarming. And it's just amazing. I mean, to know that our bodies, we're so wonderfully and miraculously made. And so our patients are always teaching us that.
Yes. Absolutely fascinating education on occupational therapy, and we're going to learn a bit more when we return. You're listening to and watching Open Door with Vince Robinson, and my guest today is Angela Woodall. She is a certified licensed occupational therapist assistant. That's a mouthful, but it's very important work, and we're going to learn more about it when we come back. This is 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burton Bell Car community radio station. Back in a moment. You're doing great. You still nervous?
Yes.
Why are you nervous?
Because I don't know what you're going to ask me. I mean, and I hate to say but
Yeah.
I know it's coming out. I'm
I
trying
say
not to.
all the time. And I also say, you know, we all do. All right. Welcome back to Open Door. Welcome back to Open Door. I'm Vince Robinson. My guest today is Angela Woodall, a licensed certified occupational therapist assistant, and we've been talking about what she does. We've talked about some of the miraculous recovery that comes about in the process of you coaxing folks to do repetitive movements and do things that they weren't able to do when you began the process. We've talked about working on a patient who had a stroke. I'm curious about what you do with a child that has autism.
So it depends on the level. There's a spectrum of autism, and on that spectrum, it depends on where they fall. Some patients with autism, they have a difficult time communicating, attending. You know, it seems as if they don't even really recognize that people are there. But then there are some people that have autism that are much higher level, and they may have more social deficits. The patients that I've worked with in the past, I had an affiliation at A.G. Bell at one time, and I worked with a variety of patients with autism. And we had a huge gym where we would get them in the gym and they'd be working on like platform swing. We'd have them doing like what we call gross motor exercises, where we get them moving around and doing all these different things. They may be hitting a balloon back and forth, or they're on this platform swing. And then after we do that, then we sit them down and try to get them to focus more on, you know, it could be anything simple like, you know, looking at flashcards, picking out numbers and maybe turning the numbers over, being able to identify different numbers. So that was the population that I worked with. They were a little bit on the lower spectrum, the lower end of the spectrum of autism instead of the higher end. So
Those things sound like fun. I mean, they might be fun for someone who doesn't have autism. So it has to be pretty rewarding for you to see the smiles on their faces. I'm assuming that they are smiling as they're performing these exercises.
some are smiling and some may not be. It just depends on, you know, how severe, you know, their deficit is. But I mean, yeah, it was great when we connected, because sometimes on the lower end of the spectrum with autistic patients, they may not connect with you. You know, like you and I are talking and we're looking at each other and our body language is in sync, but with someone with autism, they may not be able to do that. And so it's my goal to try to get them engaged first. You know, a lot of people with autism, they have sensory deficits, sensory disorders. So a lot of times we want to try to desensitize, you know, so we may do like some brushing, some scrubbing, you know, with a brush or things like that, just to increase their sensitivity a little bit more. Just try to get them to interact with us, even just eye contact. Sometimes they can't even really give you the eye contact, but we work on those types of things with them.
I'm curious about the nutritional element and your awareness of nutrition as it relates to some of the dysfunction that happens. Did you get any kind of education with relation to nutrition when you were going through your education process?
When I was going through my education process, no, we didn't. But I've always been very interested in nutrition, and so when I was working with children with autism, I would do research on my own, and then, you know, whatever I discovered, I would talk to the parents about. But yeah, that's a huge component to me, nutrition, no matter what. You know, there's a saying in real estate, location, location, location. But for me, the saying that I really rely on is nutrition, nutrition, nutrition. Because that can make all the difference in someone's recovery much faster if they're taking an adequate nutrition and eating healthier foods and that type of thing.
So what did you learn about nutrition when you were in your studies about it?
Just the holistic approach. I was, of course, the fruits and the vegetables, juices, organic foods. It's really important to, you know, take in these organic foods. Learning how to shop when you go into the grocery stores. You want to shop the periphery of the stores, because that's where, you know, the fruits and the vegetables, those kind of things are. But once you go deeper into the middle of these aisles inside the stores, that's when you're going to run into, you know, the candies, you know, all the snack foods and things like that. And so I spent a lot of time just doing a lot of research on, you know, different, again, fruits and vegetables, but, you know, what's good for the body and different things that's going on within the body and what you need to build it up. The fruits kind of act as a cleanser, and the vegetables build you up.
Okay. So you talking about fruits and vegetables, you know, the other food groups are fats and proteins. And from what I know about it, I'm not an expert by any means, but I've done a bit of studying myself. And one of the things that I've learned is that typically most Americans consume too much protein. And because of the excess protein, there are certain things that happen in the body, such as inflammation and clogging of the arteries and other things. What can you share about the other two food groups that folks may need to know about?
Well, there are healthy fats. I think I would try to get people geared more towards some of the healthy fats that you can take in. Definitely like avocados. You know, you can take that in. You want to look towards the unsaturated fats instead of the saturated, because the saturated fats are thicker, and that's what's going to clog the arteries. But something that's unsaturated, you may not have to experience any clogging of the arteries or things like that.
Yes.
And with proteins, you know, you just want to just be aware, and that's where reading of the labels really come in, you know, and just recognizing that you have to be your own healthcare advocate. And so learning how to read those labels and learning how much protein you should be taking in daily. Men may need to take in more than women, and then children take in less, you know, than adults. So just do the research on that and look at how many grams of proteins you need to be taking in. Watch the fat intake, or look out for the healthy fats that you can take in. That's going to be beneficial, because we do need the fats. Our brain needs fat, you know, so you just have to, all things in moderation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, unless you're a breatharian, you actually need all three, you know, but you have all these different kinds of diets that people talk about, like the whole low carb diet. And then there are some diets that focus primarily on protein. You know, you have all different kinds of diets. And so, you know, people are saying, I eat healthy, but then the question becomes, well, what is healthy? You mentioned fats. You know, there are a whole bunch of fats that are out there. I was having a conversation with someone just yesterday, and they were saying that they had vegetable oil, and I said, well, what's the vegetable? And they looked at the label, and it was soybean oil. And I said, well, soy is not a vegetable, so why do they call it a vegetable oil? But we look at the label, we see vegetables, we think that vegetables are healthy, so this must be a healthy oil, and clearly it's not. You know, and then you have oils like canola oil, which is made from rapeseed, the rapeseed plant. There's no such thing as a canola plant, but they took this oil, they hybridized the plant to eliminate some of the toxicity of the oil, and then they put it on the market, when initially canola oil was something that was used for lubricating engines. You know, so I just want to make sure that people get a better understanding of, particularly with fats, what's healthy and what isn't. So you mentioned avocados. I know there may be some other nut oils that might be healthier than some things like, there's cottonseed oil, there's sunflower oil, there are different kinds of oils that have certain levels of acidity which are not good for you. So can you talk a little bit about what might be a good oil and what might not be a good oil?
Well, coconut oil is an excellent oil that you can use. You can cook with it. You can eat it. I mean, well, you know, if you cook with it, you're going to eat it. But you can put it on your skin. You can put it in your hair. Sesame seed oil is excellent. Of course, olive oil is good. Grapeseed oil. You know, those oils are excellent to cook with. But again, like I said, you can also put it on your skin. So that's...
A for Angela. She knocked it out the park. Coconut oil is actually one of my go-to oils, and I do use it hair, skin, and whatnot. But I get the unrefined organic coconut oil, so maybe it's better, maybe it's not, but it works for me.
I get the unrefined too, organic.
All right.
That's the other thing. Again, reading labels or learning how to read the labels, that's one of the most important things that we all need to practice or learn how to do, because then you'll know what's the best oil, what to look for, everything really is on that label. And oftentimes they do change certain verbiage on the labels. You may think you're looking for one thing, but then they may change the name up, and so it's like you just have to really educate yourself on learning how to interpret and read labels.
Something else that you said really kind of resonated with me, and that's the idea of when you go into the store, you go around the periphery of it, and then the things that are in the middle aisles typically are things that are refined, things that have a lot of chemical processing involved in them. Talk about the danger of refined foods.
How y'all doing?
We're taping the program.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to see what kind of place this is.
Yeah, we're taping the show right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Come back though.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to stop this right now. And resuming this, I got about 1 minute left, so we'll remember that. So we were talking about refined products and products that might have chemicals in them, and why you might want to avoid them.
Well, you would want to avoid products with chemicals because their chemicals are not compatible with our bodies. We're not made up of that. You want to focus on things that are natural, that are organic, that's whole. The term now that people use is it a clean product? Usually that means that it's something that, like if you're getting oat milk, I've been drinking a lot of oat milk lately with seeds, and it's a clean product because it's just the oats, and then it's pumpkin seeds, and I will just say oats and pumpkin seed. But it's clean, that's all that's in it. If you get a product that has all these other chemicals in it, things that you have a difficult time pronouncing and you don't really even know what it is, then that's not going to be compatible with your body. So that means your body either is not going to know what to do with it, or it's going to be very difficult for your body to break it down. And then that's when you start having problems with inflammation. And so again, you want something that's clean, that your body can assimilate and can use, and you can benefit from it.
Great information and great advice. We're going to continue to talk about nutrition when we return. You're listening to Open Door on 95.9 FM WOVU with Vince Robinson and my guest Angela Woodall, and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest today is Angela Woodall. She is a licensed certified occupational therapist, and she's doing great things with people as we have this conversation. In the previous segment, we were just talking about some nutritional information that might be beneficial to you. We talked about healthy fats. We talked a little bit about the carbohydrates. We probably need to deal with that a little bit more, and also talk about protein. There's this myth that you gotta have a lot of protein. I mean, there are commercials that say protein, 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 and everybody is so hyped up about having all this protein. Protein in great abundance might be necessary for somebody that's a bodybuilder or something like that, but for the most part, we don't need to have 50 or 60 grams of protein on a daily basis.
No, we really don't. 15 to 20 grams.
That's about it
Yeah.
in terms of what we might need on a daily basis.
Right. Unless there's some deficit, where, you're depleted and you may need to take more in, but for the most part, you don't really need you don't need 50 or 60 grams, that's for sure.
Okay, so some folks like to eat their meat. Some folks say I'm a vegetarian, but they eat fish and poultry. Some folks go the extreme. One of them doesn't do any animal products in terms of protein. But can you talk about quality protein and what some of those sources might be?
Well, certainly fish is an excellent source of protein. I know a lot of people are vegan, so that basically means nothing with a face type of animal product. But I mean, eggs, if you're not vegan, you know, eggs is a good source of protein.
Yes, and for the vegans, you know, we like to rely on beans and nuts for protein. Both are good sources of protein, and with the nuts, it's also a good source of fats too. You can find some healthy fats in the nuts, but it's not, you know, all about not eating meat because it's good for some and perhaps it's not good for others. You know, you kind of have to look at it a case by case, person by person basis, and everybody knows what works for them. The other day I watched a video, a young lady who had been a vegan for some time, and she said that she was having issues with acne. And she said something just told her to revisit eating certain animal products, and when she revisited those animal products, her acne cleared up, you know. So, and then there's the idea of eating by blood type, you know,
Yes.
and your blood type will dictate whether or not you should. So perhaps you consult a nutritionist, or is there some type of a doctor that could steer you in the right direction in terms of what nutrients are good and what aren't for you?
Well, a nutritionist would be good if you could talk to either a dietitian or nutritionist, but there is a book out called Eat Right for Your Blood Type. It's been out for a while. I can't give you the author's name off the top of my head, but
Find out.
it's an excellent book, and it just kind of breaks down what might be more compatible with that particular blood type. So you might want to check into that.
And most people don't know what their blood type is. So for those of us who don't know what your blood type is, how would you find out?
Well, you would go to your doctor and ask him to do a blood test, and then they can tell you what your blood type is.
Okay. So we've covered the proteins. Let's talk about carbs. There are simple carbs, there are complex carbs. What's good, what's not good?
The simple carbs, I would definitely try to lean towards. I try not to be too strict when it comes down to dieting. A lot of times I say, you got to measure this and measure that, and too many carbs here and there. I just try to, I know with fruits, there are carbohydrates in the fruits, but I just try to, again, take in fruits in moderation, do my juices, maybe not eat certain carbs after a certain time of day, like after 4 or 5, I may not eat a lot of carbs unless I'm going out to dinner or something like that. But, I don't know, I try not to get too caught up in every little nuance of a diet per se. I just try to stick with my juices and just pay attention to what's in the food that I'm taking in, and what type of nutrition it's going to provide for my body, and also the bioavailability to make sure that it's something that my body can readily take in and actually use, whatever nutrients that's in there.
And in terms of the juices, are you talking about juices that you create yourself, or are you talking about the juices that you take off the shelf at the grocery store?
Juices that you make yourself. Those are, that's the best way to go. It actually, not only does it taste better, but again, it's more available for your body to take in. There's no chemicals. As soon as you drink it, your body can use it immediately, so.
Yeah, I think it's a really important distinction because, I can remember years ago when, I would buy apple juice and orange juice and not knowing about the high sugar content. We talked about the overabundance of protein, but the overabundance of sugar in the diet is also problematic. So what's the difference between the juice that you buy at the store and the juice that you make yourself?
Well, you definitely touched on it. There's a lot of it has a lot of sugar. I think I was recently reading that some of the fruit juices could have more than 50% sugar. And so we know that sugar is, it's not very healthy. It actually, some sugars actually feed cancer. And so the natural sugars is good for you. But even that, you want to, again, look at that in moderation. So it's just best to, look at juices from a healthier standpoint where you're making it yourself. That way you know exactly what's in it. Nobody's putting any extra chemicals in there, because a lot of the juices that we get off the shelf, they have to have stabilizers. So, the shelf life is longer. Maybe the grape juice now that you get off the shelf is gonna last several weeks in your refrigerator, but it's loaded with all these different chemicals, to last longer. And your body doesn't need that. And in fact, your body probably doesn't even know what to do with it. So it's better for you to make your own juice, even if you got up every morning, make a glass, it's real quick. I have a NutriBullet, but there's a lot of different types of machines, juicers, that you can get that are real good. The Ninja, you can just cut up something, throw it in there, press a button, and then you've got fresh juice, plus it tastes so much better. Apple juice that you make yourself, or grape juice that you make yourself, it tastes so much better than what you would get off the shelf.
Yeah, and it's also important to read the label to determine whether it's a juice or a drink, because some things will have beautiful pictures of fruit on the label, and then you look at the label and it says 5% juice or 10% juice, and then when you look at the ingredient, you'll see high fructose corn syrup, which is very toxic. And what I know about it is it actually suppresses the mechanism in your body that tells you that you're full. So you want to continue to eat even though you've gone past the point of having all that you need from the meal that you ate. It just causes you to eat more. People overeat because they have high fructose corn syrup in the juice that they're drinking and other products.
And that's the other thing, a lot of people that are, when you're getting juices off the shelf, a lot of times people just keep drinking and eating because they're not being satisfied at the cellular level. The food is not healthy enough, it's not reaching the cellular level. But when you're making like your own juices, you'll notice a change right away, where you may make juice for the morning, and then in the afternoon you may not even really be all that hungry. And that's because you're satisfied at the cellular level. When you see some people that are obese, actually those people may be starving. They can't get satisfied. That's why people just keep eating and eating and eating, because they're not satisfied at the cellular level. When you're eating good, healthy food, you get satisfied and you don't want to eat that much food. So.
If we're having this conversation, I'm just thinking about some of the, I guess, customary practices that we have, based on our experience in our epigenetics. Once upon a time, many of us were working in the fields all day, and we were getting the scraps from Master's table, and we made the most of them. So we were eating things like hog intestines and all kinds of crazy things, neck bone, pig feet, all that kinds of stuff. But we were working all day, so some of the toxins that we were taking into our bodies were actually working their way out because we were sweating, and hopefully we were hydrated if it was possible to do that back in the day. How do you coax folks away from things that they've done for years, knowing that they probably are not in their best interests?
Well, you have to start by telling them what the benefits are, what they're going to gain, and then find out what it is that person wants to do in their life. They may say, oh, I'm having a difficult time breathing, or I have my endurance is low, and then you could talk to them, or I would talk to them about the types of foods that would help them feel stronger and healthier, and what those benefits are, and how they could, how they could gain from that. I think I would really start there, because I need to find out where they are, where they want to be, and then try to meet them there, and let them see that adequate nutrition, or not even adequate, but really good nutrition is going to help them to feel much better.
So going back to what you do as a therapist, and we talked about the importance of diet definitely being an aspect of lifestyle, then there's that whole idea of movement. And obviously you want to get people to a place where they have more movement than they had before, because sometimes whatever crisis they experienced caused them to have a limitation in their ability to move certain parts of their body. What kinds of suggestions do you have in terms of ways that people can get physical activity?
Well, I mean, this may sound cliche-ish, but walking really is the best exercise. And if you've been out of touch with working out, it's something you haven't done in a long time, you may want to start there, where you're just walking, even if you're just walking up and down your driveway, or walking to the corner and back. And then as time goes on, you can add on, where you may be walking down your driveway one day, and then walking around the block the next week. Then a week later, you may add another block onto it, keep adding a block. That's how I got into running. I started out just by walking, and then each time I would go out, I would walk, and then I would run one block. And then a week later, I would add 2 blocks running. And then, 3 weeks later, I would add a 3rd block. So, it's a process. Be patient with yourself, and just keep adding on a little bit each time. But before you do that, you might want to consult with your physician and let him know that you're considering an exercise program, and also see what he has to say about that, because if you have certain health issues, you definitely need to get his advice on that.
Okay. Excellent advice, excellent information, and we will continue when we return. You're listening to Open Door on 95.9 FM WOVU, a Burton Belcar community radio station. This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest is licensed certified occupational therapist assistant Angela Woodall. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Open Door. I'm Vince Robinson, and my guest is Angela Woodall, the certified licensed occupational therapist assistant. Again, doing great things with folks who are going through what they're going through as a result of some type of trauma. As we return to the show, we were talking about the importance of exercise, and you said, first of all, you said if you're considering an exercise regimen, consult your physician. Second thing, and you actually said this first, is walking is a good place to start. So in addition to walking, what other kinds of things could you suggest?
Weight training is an excellent way to start, or resistive training. You can use TheraBands, because when you work with weights or some type of TheraBand, something that's resistive, not only are you strengthening the muscles, but you're also strengthening the bones. And so that's always really good. That's going to help you maintain your balance, for walking, building up your core strength, and that would be the muscles in your stomach, your waist, and your back. That's very important. You need excellent core strength. So I would definitely recommend that, some type of weight training. You could do some stretching. Those are good exercises depending on, what's going on within your body. Stretching, yoga, Tai Chi, would take care of that stretching part, and the yoga would too. Those are really good things, exercises to also do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tai Chi it's amazing, because the movement is kind of slow and it's kind of fluid, you know. But I remember once upon a time I decided I was going to take some Tai Chi. So there was a gentleman who was teaching it at it was actually a salon in Beechwood, and I may have done maybe 3 or 4 sessions. But what kind of surprised me about it was, even though the movement was slow and fluid, I was working up a sweat. You know, I'm like, how is this? Because I'll go to the gym and, you know, bust out 205 a few times and I'm not sweating. But then I'm doing this slow movement and all of a sudden, you know, sweat's rolling down my back. Amazing.
Yeah, Tai Chi is very, very beneficial. It's something that we even recommend for our patients that are seniors, you know, because it's a little easier to do. It's just slow, controlled movements, and it helps increase the range of motion. And so with range of motion, that's you're being able to raise your arms up over your head, you know, maybe reach back behind you. Oftentimes when you're dealing with seniors, that's something that they may end up losing is range, where they can't, maybe they're only able to lift their arms up so high, but in order to like brush your teeth, comb your hair, put your clothes on, you may need to be able to have to get your arm up even higher. So that's why those Tai Chi movements are so important. And even if you have like some type of arthritis, you can do some of those Tai Chi movements or stretching even before you get out of bed in the morning, which is going to make it easier for you once you do stand up on your feet and you start to, you know, go from like the bedroom to the bathroom or downstairs or what have you without as much stiffness and pain.
And it's really important when you talk about seniors, and typically what happens with our elders is progressively they lose more and more mobility as they age, and it's partly because of the atrophy that sets in from not using certain muscles. So in the example of what you just pointed out, someone who's not able to raise their arm, might this be a situation where you as an occupational therapist would step in and help them to get to a place where they could lift their arm up?
Absolutely, yeah. Sometimes we use different modalities, diathermy, electrical stimulation, but before even going to those types of treatments, you know, we prefer trying to just do it the natural way, slow, easy, show a patient how to do their own self-range of motion exercises, how to do their own stretches. Because even with the modalities, that may be something that we eventually get to, or we may even start there, depending on what the limitation is. But the ultimate goal is to get them to be able to do it themselves, because this has to be a way of life. It's going to be an ongoing process, so they can maintain their range of motion, their abilities, and their function.
Okay. So we've talked about physical, and to a certain extent, we've talked about mental, but we haven't really fully explored that, or spiritual. I happen to know, based on a previous conversation with you, that you embrace the idea of holistic health. So can you talk about some things that may tie into the mental, spiritual aspect of healing and recovery?
Definitely meditation. And meditation is kind of like being in the moment right then and there. Instead of, you know, when we're worried about the future, that only presents anxiety. It creates anxiety and anxiousness when you're thinking about the future, and you know, and then when you're thinking about things that happened in the past or things you didn't do in the past, then that leads to depression. And so why meditation is so important is because you want to try to just be like right in the moment and focus on things that are happening right then and there, in a calm, relaxed state, peaceful environment. Even if you spend just a few minutes before you get out of bed in the morning, where you're meditating and you're thinking about something peaceful and relaxing.
So meditation, definitely a key, and it's a challenge too. Because we have so much stimulation. I mean, driving down the freeway, now you have billboards. It's not just a poster on a big piece of wood, it's a screen, you know. Then there's the reminder that the national deficit is $28 trillion and your share of it is $87,000, you know. Then you get home and then you walk in the house and you turn the television on and it starts barking at you, buy this, buy that, and then giving you reasons to be afraid because this is out to get you, that's out to get you. So shutting everything down, quieting yourself, quieting your thoughts, and getting to a place that is conducive to peace is a very important thing for us to do. How do you suggest that people meditate?
Well, one of the things that I've been doing, I turn the television off. I don't watch the news as much. I mean, I do tune in, but not as much as I used to. And then I try to pick a specific time of day, generally first thing in the morning. And I meditate. One thing that I meditate on, I try to set an intention of how I want my day to go. You know, I set an intention of, you know, radiating, you know, joy and love and peace to whomever I encounter. And I just try to focus on that and think about that a lot, especially if I have other appointments with other people and I'm thinking about, well, you know, how do I want to present myself when I'm dealing with some of my other clients, and then just visualization techniques. So when you're setting that intention, you're also visualizing how you want your day to go. You choose it. Happiness is a choice. You wake up and say, today is going to be a wonderful day. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to, you know, just be peaceful and that type of thing. So that's what I do.
Okay. You said something really interesting earlier in our interview, and that was working for that hospital that became Cleveland Clinic. And when you were in that environment, you were completely and totally immersed in an allopathic medical regime, so to speak. And at a certain point, you decided to embrace the idea of natural versus the allopathic. Can you talk about how that paradigm shift happened for you?
Well, it was someone that I was seeing at the time, and he was into holistic medicine. We were like maybe 20 years old at that time, and we would go down to the farmer's market and get buy crates of apples and grapes and carrots, and you know, we were juicing back then. They had this he had an old-fashioned juicer. It wasn't like what we have today, but you would put, you know, let's say your carrots or something in this cloth, and I think it was a Norwalk, and then this little lever would go up slow, and then it would just press. It was like pressed juice.
Cold press.
It was a cold press juice machine. And so, you know, we were into things like that. And so that's what really kind of got me on track with a lot of the holistics, because I could see the benefit. And now I could see it, but I could taste it. The juice was absolutely amazing. I was like, carrot juice? Are you kidding me? It was very, very sweet. It was very good. You know, I was like, wow, this tastes amazing. And then the benefit of the energy, you know, that I felt after drinking it. And so that just kind of got the ball rolling. We later on got into wheatgrass, juicing wheatgrass. My friend would grow the wheatgrass, and then we would juice it and drink it, and I would have like tons of energy. I mean, I'd be bouncing off the walls, and I was like, this is really good stuff. And so that's what kind of got me on that path.
Okay, I've heard about the wheatgrass juice, and I tried it for a season. The juicer that I bought, a part of it broke, so I haven't been able to use it, and I didn't get the warranty on it, so I couldn't ship it back and all that other kind of stuff. But I really want to get back to the wheatgrass juice, because they say, among other things, the wheatgrass juice will eliminate your gray.
Oh, okay, that's
good to know.
That's good to know. Something I didn't really know, but I know one shot of it, they said, is equivalent to, oh, I forget how many pounds
Couple of pounds.
of
Leafy
vegetables,
greens.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. It's really good.
Yeah. So I need to revisit that whole wheatgrass thing. But you know, there are just so many things that you can do right now to enhance your energy. I think one of the best things that you can do though is to eliminate that excess sugar in your diet, because people get that sugar in them and then they have that crash because their glycemic levels go up and down.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, we have diabetes, which is really prevalent in our community. And a lot of that just has to do with our relationship to sugar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back in the day, they used to call it the sugar. Oh, you got the sugar.
Right, right.
So, absolutely amazing information. If folks are interested in obtaining your services, how can they reach you if that's appropriate?
My email address, angelawoodall77@gmail.com.
Angela Woodall 77
at
gmail.com.
That's correct.
That's pretty simple. And Woodall is Woodall.
That's correct.
And you spell Angela the way everybody, well, most people spell Angela. You know, we get creative sometimes
We
when we
do.
spell names, but, and then the middle initial is M.
It is.
Okay, we don't have to tell them what it is.
No, we don't.
Okay. All right, something exotic or, you know.
Maria.
Oh, okay. See, I thought it might have been Michelle, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Just the flow of it, the ring to it.
Okay.
But the Maria means that maybe there might be some Spanish or Latin in there somewhere.
Could be.
Could be. Well, we'll never know. It's been an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you. And I am hopeful that folks were able to take something away that would edify them, strengthen them, and make their life more enjoyable and more productive. That's the whole point of these conversations. Thank you for joining us on Open Door.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for listening and watching Open Door with Vince Robinson right here on 95.9 FM WOVU. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, make today your best day.